And we're back, and we're just jumping into our first conversation for this morning. As we said before the break, we are speaking with some outstanding women who are excelling in their respective fields. And this morning we're highlighting all of their different accomplishments in our conversation. So joining us via Zoom, we have Erin Garnett, who is the manager and the manager of the Public Relations Department of the Belize City Council. We also have Sabrina Daly, a very familiar face here, who is a communications officer from the Department of Youth Services. And we also have Dominique Norales, who is the regional representative for the Caribbean and Americas in the Commonwealth Youth Council. Good morning, ladies.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Marlene.
Hi, it's great to have all of you here, and such a distinguished panel this morning, I should say. But we wanted to highlight some of all of your accomplishments, especially considering that all of you respectively are so young. So let's talk a little bit about, or let's get an introduction then, and I'll just go in order that I have it here. So before we talk about the accomplishments, why don't we start with Erin? Let's talk a little bit about you, who you are, and how you grew up, and sort of what your aspirations were.
Okay. Good morning, Gavin and Marlene. Thank you for having me. I'm currently the communications manager of the PR department of the Belize City Council. That means I am responsible for a team that's responsible for outputting information to the public, keeping everybody informed, but also for making sure that the residents' complaints are addressed. I've always wanted to be in a role where I could support myself financially, but also be making a difference in the community. And I feel like this is exactly what I'm doing every day.
Okay. And Sabrina?
All right. Well, where do I begin? I'm the public relations officer for the Department of Youth Services. I've been there for a minute. I've sat in the chairs there quite a bit as well. But I'm also a news anchor now for Channel 5, and that's pretty exciting as well. How do I say this? I have no idea how I got here. But I feel like it began when I started volunteering. That's the best way I can say it. I volunteered after I came out of high school, and that kind of transitioned into a lot of opportunities, some really amazing opportunities. So, yeah.
Okay. And finally, Dominique.
Hi, good morning. Dominique Norales, newly elected regional representative for the Caribbean and Americas Commonwealth Youth Council. Like Sabrina, I've sat in that chair many times. I was going through my campaign material and I saw so many pictures of Marlene, and I was like, man, I've been on that set a lot. But yeah, that's just a bit about me so far. I don't know where exactly to start, but that's my intro.
Well, here's one thing that you all have in connection, and I really wanted to hone in on that this morning. All of you have been very active as young people, as volunteers. So by choice, you decided to get involved with agencies that kind of led to your own professional accomplishments. Dominique, you joked about you being on the chair. It was as BFLA, and then youth policy, and then I think UB. There was a UB period as well, or a university level.
There was a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your what makes you, as a young person, with all the competing priorities you have, school, friends, social media, fun, what makes you decide to spend your time with an organization to do some good in the country? Start with you, Dominique.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've always felt it important to give back, no? I have been privileged enough to have gotten opportunity and investment in my own human capital from people from a very young age. And so I always wanted to give back, and I don't like stay home. So that's probably one of the reasons as well. I don't really like stay home, but I just feel like I have to give back and pay it forward. And so I find organizations that are in line with my ideals, or the ideals that I thought I wanted to learn. And that's how my journey started.
Yeah. So just because you didn't want to stay home, you wanted to find something to engage in.
Yeah.
All right. And for the other two ladies, what was your catalyst behind getting involved?
I could really go ahead, Erin.
Okay. So I think for me, it was really the people around me. My parents, my family, they're very into giving back. And when I was younger, I saw my parents putting up different organizations or basketball championships and including other people in the community, young men, and just really giving them something positive to do. So I grew up around a lot of that. And I think that really encouraged me to, decide to do my part.
Yeah. What about you, Sabrina?
Well, I can definitely resonate with Dominique. First off, I had no idea that I would even be volunteering. I live in Borough Boom. For most of my life, I've just kind of stayed in Borough Boom. And I think it was exactly what Dominique said. I wanted to be a part of something bigger, but I also did not want to be at home. For me, when I graduated high school, I was volunteering, and I was going to junior college at the time, and I had a lot of responsibilities on my plate. So I was volunteering, and then I still came home and I had my home responsibilities as well. My mom did catering, so a lot of people didn't know that when I left from school and volunteering, I went home and I would make tamales with my mom, and yeah, that was my routine. And I just remember thinking, man, I want more than this. And that's not to say that anything is wrong with how I grew up, because it's really humbling, and I can make tamales with my eyes closed. And I absolutely love tamales, but I know that I wanted more, and I wanted to contribute to something bigger. Like I said, I had no idea that it would lead me to where I am now, but it was such a humbling experience, and it was quite a ride that I have to say I'm really grateful to have been a part of.
And that's such a critical point. How would you say that, and each of you can chime in if you want, how would you say that working with organizations, volunteering time, how has that helped to shape you for your life as you moved into adulthood? Did it make a difference?
Definitely. For me, I think it's the people that I've met along the way. I've had opportunities to meet people both locally and internationally. I've been given the opportunity to be on platforms that I had never imagined I would have been. I traveled because of volunteering. So it really shaped me to be the adult that I am now. The experiences that I've had, the networking that I've been able to be a part of. The only thing I can say is I know that I would not have been the adult that I am now had I not volunteered.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? Dominique?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, well, of course, I think we are this collection of all of our experiences, all the people we have met, all the stories we have connected with. And so I know for a fact that I wouldn't have been the person I am today without the family, without the mentors, without the guidance. It played a huge role in shaping who I am. And even today, I come in contact with so many people that really helped raise me and shape my worldview. And I am thankful, very thankful, that it was the right kind of people and that I picked up the right kind of habits, and that I really shaped my own worldview based on that. It wasn't that I was a copy and a CC, a carbon copy, but they really helped me and really fueled my own curiosities and encouraged me to be curious and encouraged me to ask questions and just be myself in all places. So definitely would not have been the person I am today without that volunteering, without picking up those ideals that you otherwise will not pick up without volunteering.
Let me just press a little further there. As we watch images of you representing Belize as a youth all over the world, really, what is the impact of seeing your country from the outside at such a young age?
That is life-changing, because you get a new worldview. Like you get to understand, one, how lucky we are, and then also you get to understand, wow, there are some things that we really need to do better. And so you really get an idea to really hone in what you advocate for, what your activism is about, and where you're most needed. And of course, you get to understand what your own passions are. Because without having that other lens of the world and meeting these other people of different cultures and understanding what makes them tick and what makes them happy, it really gives you something that you otherwise would not have gotten. And representing Belize has been one of my greatest joys. So yeah.
You know,
I
something.
can also agree with Dominique in that. Yeah. Go.
No, go ahead, Sabrina.
Well, I was just going to say that I can definitely agree with Dominique. I too have been given several opportunities to represent Belize internationally, and it has been such a culture shock many times because the things that you learn other countries are dealing with from a youth perspective, it really is humbling for us, or for myself, because I think of, man, Belize really not a struggle like that, and that's the best way to put it. But there are other times as well, you're like, man, we really need to do better. We really need to do enough. So for me, that's definitely one of the biggest things that kind of stood out for me. And also the way Dominique explained, I feel like when I had the opportunity to represent the youth and Belize on those platforms, it really gave me an idea to find out what exactly I wanted to focus on as a young activist.
You know, what I also find interesting about all of you all in your respective roles is that all of your roles require a lot of engagement with the public and or a lot of engagement, a lot of exposure, dealing with lots of people or lots of people seeing you. And I'm wondering how it feels to sort of put yourself out there like that. Do you ever get nervous having to deal with the public or dealing with public scrutiny? And how do you overcome any feelings of nervousness or self-doubt? Perhaps Erin, you can take that one first.
Yeah, well, being a public relations manager, you're basically out there all the time, every day, selling this message. You do get nervous sometimes as a young person, but basically, I just keep in mind that it's gonna be okay if because the council will focus on transparency. You go out there and you tell the truth, and it all works itself out.
Yeah.
All right.
For me, one of the people have this idea that I do love being on the media and I love doing all of this. And yes, it's an enjoyable part of the experience, but it's all really learned behavior. I'm very much shy, very much introverted. So even before coming on here this morning, I had to give myself a little bit of a pep talk. Okay, Dominique, just like you've done this before, calm down, you're fine. And being open to public scrutiny, definitely something that I use my block button on social media a lot for. And I don't answer the calls I don't want to answer. So it's really just creating those boundaries for me. I know Erin can't really do that because Erin has to be as responsive. Erin has to be as responsive, but for me, I choose who I want to interact with. And that's the only way I could stay sane because other people don't have boundaries set up. So I have to set it up for myself.
Yeah.
And it's extremely important to remember as well that whether you're doing good or doing bad, either way, people will talk. So just focus on your message.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yep. Sabrina, you want to take that one too?
I mean, if anyone knows me, they know I'm a nervous wreck. Anxiety takes over every single day for both news and just being on shows like this. So I definitely have to prepare myself every single time. When I started communications for Department of Youth Services, that felt like baptism by fire. But as Dominique said, it is alert behavior. You have to prepare yourself and you have to just know your content. On the news side, that's a whole other story. I'm about to get into that. I remember when I did my first newscast, I want to say the internet can really intimidate you at times. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm about to do the news. I made sure that I did not tell a lot of people that it was my first news night. A lot of people did not know that I was going to be on the news. Only like my close family and close friends. So when it was out there, it was just out there. And apart from that, I just have to really protect my personal mental space. I have to make sure that I have enough boundaries to protect my mental state because it's hard. It's really hard. But I think if you carry yourself in a way that you respect yourself and you're doing what you know is right, then it all works out.
So we started off looking at how you first got involved as volunteers and how it has helped to shape you as professional young adults. Dominique, let's talk about your recent election. This is really exciting news, and I wanted to hear your backstory about why you put yourself forward, and even the process of campaigning as well.
Yeah, so this has been a very different sort of election, Marlene.
Yeah.
Very, very much different. This election was supposed to happen in 2020. The pandemic came, and so the Commonwealth Head of Government meetings that were supposed to happen got postponed. They have since been postponed again, but they decided to go ahead with the election for the Commonwealth Youth Council. So I applied in 2020, and they got the postponement, and I told myself, well, I'm not going to apply again. And then I spoke to a mentor, and he kind of convinced me that, Dominic, you have all the requisite skills to get this done and get it done well. So I put my name up again, and we went through the process with over 500 applicants from across the Commonwealth of 54 nations. Wow. And so I got chosen, shortlisted as a nominee, and I went through the process. It was a very short campaign period, about just under a month. And I ran against a colleague from Trinidad and Tobago. I won the election, and it was so exciting, but also very scary, right? Because the campaign was very different. Like, we usually get to be on the ground and campaign and canvass, which is what I would have been used to. Mm-hmm. But you have to be online and use newsletters and use WhatsApp and use video calls, and so people can be non-responsive just because of the sheer volume of candidates that we had. 40 candidates that had to campaign to each national delegate. And since then, since winning, there are a couple of investigations going on right now. And so the final listing has not been put forward, but it should be in the next week or so, because it's a long list of investigations. And so the transparency part of the electoral board has to kick in. But for the most part, I am safe. I didn't break any rules, so I'm pretty confident in my positioning.
What does it mean for you? Explain to people who don't understand how the council work or why it's relevant. What does this mean?
It means every time I do anything that is outside of the borders of Belize, I always say it is for my country first. And I really want for people to understand that we are capable of doing anything we want to do. And that sounds so cliche, but putting Belize on a good footing and having anyone who comes after me. So any other Belizean that decides to run for anything in the Caribbean region, in the Commonwealth, in the international space, they will know that, okay, this is the standard to which Belizeans operate. This is our work ethic. This is our personality. We are colorful, we are intelligent, and we don't have to sacrifice any of those things to make up for another. And so for me, I want to embody all that I want people to see Belize as. So I want them to understand that, yes, we are a diverse people. I want them to understand that, yes, there is excellence in Belize, but I also want us to get the work done. I am not a fan of the pageantry of this type of work. I want the work to get done, and I want it to be done well. And so that is the premise that I start from, doing the work well.
Having all worked as youth activists, and as you move now into adulthood as young adults and professionals, what concerns you most about what our youth population are facing today? I know you're still youths, but you're on a different level now.
I think what concerns me most is the lack of opportunities. Recently we did a youth highlight, which I guess is how the idea came about of incorporating me into the show. I remember during graduation season, which is actually now so many people are graduating from UB and from SJC, JC, and a lot of people are saying, what now? What do I do? I have this education, I worked hard, where do I go from here? A big part of why we did that was to kind of have like a, show hope, inspiration. There is something you can do after. There are opportunities out there. While now it may be slim, I think just consistency. So that was like my main concern at this time.
Mm-hmm. Sabrina?
Oh, okay. I was waiting to see which one. For me, when I think of something that concerns me, and I mean, this comes from the PR for Department of Youth Services. One of the biggest struggle we've always had was youth involvement. And while, it varies in different areas where young people would be involved in volunteering and youth work, I always wonder if we're somehow losing our motivation to try harder to get out there and volunteer. At that time, I had no idea that when I was volunteering, I had no idea that it would come with these opportunities. And I just wish that other young people would also get out there and be a part of it, would also just volunteer because you want to give back to the community. I don't really see that as much as I did back when I was volunteering at that time. And maybe it's because my lens is focused on a different area, but I do wish I would see more young people out volunteering and just giving back to their community.
Yeah. And Dominique?
Yes. Paul Lopez recently did a story on this election win that I had, and he asked a lot of questions. In fact, that interview got more emotional than I thought it would have gotten. And I told him that I checked my privilege at the door, right? I come from, of course, a humble background and from Southside Belize City, and all of these things are true, and all of them helped me to make me who I am. But I've also been very, very privileged. To even sit on this TV station now is a privilege. And so when I talk about what should inspire young people and the issues that face young people, for me, it always starts from my most immediate experience, which is crime and violence. And that stems from a lack of opportunity, like the young ladies mentioned before. And opportunity may be available, but it may not be accessible. And there are so many things that block people from getting opportunities. Passing through neighborhoods that is unsafe for them, getting transportation, getting food to make sure that you could function in our meeting that lasts 6-7 hours. These are the things that I think about quite often. And so, yes, there is a lack of opportunity or a limited opportunity, but the issue for me has always been access to opportunity and who gets access to those opportunities. There is so much we can discuss about why young people seem so apathetic to politics. I am going through right now an election battle that shouldn't be happening at all, but it's because we are so influenced by the toxicity of politics. I have the wherewithal. I've been through worse, so I'm fine. But other young people might not have the wherewithal that I do. And so all of these things we have to think about, in discussing the issues that affect young people today in Belize.
Yeah. I guess go ahead.
I was just going to say, I completely agree with Dominique, but I also think that Dominique would agree as well, that it would be so great, and this is something I try to do every day in my job, to not only involve Belize City residents, but youth or younger Belize City residents, for them to understand how politics work. For example, the Belize City Council, how decisions are made, who are the councillors. A lot of people, can't really identify. That's why I try to put as much information out there so people can get familiar.
Yeah. That's such a critical point, though, and we've talked about it many times before. I'm pretty sure, Dominic, you've been here for this conversation about how to get young people engaged. And when we say politics, we don't mean partisan politics. We mean policies and how the country is governed. Yeah.
Precisely.
And it's
what different departments are responsible to do different things. Sometimes people are going to the wrong sources to get things done.
Yeah. What and that's when I asked the first question about what made you get involved. That's the critical point, because what's the difference between you and your friends, for example? The level of engagement and what they think of you having volunteered before or having a public role in some kind of community-related work.
Go ahead, Dominique, go ahead.
Well, what you asked about what our friends think.
Yeah. What's the difference between you and, let's say, your friends who don't get engaged to the level that you do?
Well, my friends always think I'd try to save the world. That's what they tell me. That I'd try to save the world. Really, there's a poet from the Caribbean, I believe, or for the African continent. Amilcar Cabral is his name, and he has this famous quote, and he says that I am a simple African man trying to make a difference in the context of my own country, in the context of my own time. I'm paraphrasing there, of course. And so that is how I look at it. I can't save the world, right? But I could make an impact on the people who I care the most about, the country I care the most about, the most beautiful country in the world, Belize, and with the most beautiful people. And so that's how I look at it. And my friends really, they are supportive for the most part, but they also tell me that I always try to save the world. And the difference between them and I, Marlene, I think everyone has a role, right? I don't think everybody have to be like me. No, I don't want that. I don't think it should be like that. I think everyone should find whatever it is that they're passionate about, and do it to the best of their ability. And so that's how I really look at that.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to chime in on that one?
Well, my friends, they always say, I don't want to do what you do. But they've always been very supportive, and because they're not very into it, I try to get them into it, try to explain them what I do and how I do it, and again, how decisions are made within the council, and just so they get involved, follow the pages, learn about the updates.
Yeah.
But, Dominique also brought up something interesting, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but the word that you used was toxicity of politics. And of course, Erin, you also said, no matter what you do, no matter good or bad, people do talk, and there will, yes. and with that comes negative opinions. Sabrina, you also spoke about, being scared of the reactions of people on the internet based on the scrutiny. How do you deal with the negative aspects of, the public parts of your respective roles?
Well, I think I have a go, right, at this one. When I was campaigning, so there's a group chat. So part of the campaign was a huge group chat with all the national delegates who were voted and candidates. And there was this young person from Trinidad and Tobago who put a message in the group chat and said that, why am I running for this when Belize doesn't have a national youth council? And what have I done more than attend conferences and give speeches? My initial reaction, now if you know me, you know what was my initial reaction, right? But like I said, I learned diplomacy along the way, diplomacy and talk. And so I responded to him because he had the right to ask it. I just didn't like how he asked it. So when I deal with public scrutiny, this one will sound a bit overly confident, but I'd first say that you wouldn't have the courage to do what I am doing right now. And you don't hold a candle to me, which is why you're asking me this question so aggressively. And secondly, like I said, I choose who I wish to speak to. And I speak to people who speak to me with respect. Because what is most important to me in this space, whatever space I occupy, is the respect people give me. Because I give everyone respect, no matter what position they have. From the custodian to the prime minister gets the same respect from me. And so that is what I operate on. When I get disrespected, I respond with diplomacy and tact. And then if it escalates, I employ whatever mechanisms there are to alleviate that issue. And we try not to let it escalate to a point where I have to become who I otherwise don't want to be, right? So that is how I deal with scrutiny and the toxicity of politics. Listen, it takes a lot of patience. I have to remember that, I know the fans outside the city and in our gang. So I can't respond like that, right? So that's how I deal with it, Gavin.
Yeah.
For me, I have to say that the type of work that we do, it's unavoidable. You can't run away from people feeling how they feel, and everyone has a right to their own opinion. But in my line of work, where I work on the media and I also do communications work for the department that I'm at, I feel like I've just kind of tried to weed out what I thought was deserving of a response. And generally, if someone does give a reaction to something that I would do, just like Dominique would said, I try to remind myself that they're not in my shoe, especially with the news. It's really easy to be hard on yourself because people might think, you're just reading something, so you shouldn't make a mistake or why you said it that way. I just try to remind myself that they're not in my shoes. They have no idea what I'm feeling, what it's like. And I think if people would actually do it, they would realize that it's not easy. And it goes the same for communications work for Department of Youth Services. You bear you have to represent the entire youth body of Belize. And that's a really heavy burden. And I try my best to do it to the best of my ability. So I feel like ultimately, if I know that I'm doing what is right, oh my gosh, those are some really old photos. But if I'm doing what I know is right, stay focused.
Yes.
I think people have a lot of courage that they otherwise wouldn't have behind a Facebook profile, and a lot of them are fake profiles. So like Sabrina said, weeding them out. And I also take the same approach. I look at the comments we're receiving, the negative comments in particular. If I think they're just coming from a place of anger and resentment and what they're saying is basically baseless, then I would never go back and forth. But I see if a citizen that is genuinely concerned, I'll definitely make the effort to reach out to the necessary department to make sure that their concerns are addressed.
Yeah.
Now, ladies, we are running out of time very quickly. But before we go, I do want to ask, we're talking about the roles and all of your accomplishments thus far. But I want to know sort of what's next or on the horizon and some of your ambitions as in the future. Having already gotten such a good start. So why don't we start with Dominique?
I wasn't expecting to be the first one. What's next? Well, I just want to do well in this role, first and foremost. Yeah. It's 2 years. At the end of this tenure, I will also be coming to an end of my university experience at the University of West Indies, Cave Hill. So that is going to be a double celebration. So I know to get there, it's going to take a lot of work. So for me, next is just doing well in school and doing well in this role. And then we'll see where life takes us after that.
Yeah.
Erin?
Well, so far I have a bachelor's in communications. So I'm thinking I want to find the time to get a master's in public international communications and kind of just go as far as I can with it.
Okay.
PhD, doctorate.
Nice.
Good. And Sabrina?
Well, I feel like I kind of have to juggle two hats in the sense of I love both media and communications, and I have to be careful how I speak because I am talking in front of my boss. But I definitely would like to explore media a little bit more. I definitely enjoy my role at Channel 5. It has been such a journey. I can remember when I began and how much of a challenge it was, but to where I am now, I have definitely seen growth, and I would definitely love to grow a lot more in that capacity. Yeah. Apart from that, there's the communication side. That's also a baby of mine, and I would love to continue in that path. And I don't know, maybe I explore other areas that I can work in communications as well.
Nice. And just, your advice, everybody, to the young graduates who are going to collect their diplomas over the course of this month, young women and even young men. What do you say to them at this point in their journey?
Can I start?
Yes, of course.
My thing is always, and this is what I go by every day, is be consistent. I think coming up with a game plan and saying I'll execute it is the easiest part, but waking up every single day and staying on that part is where it gets hard. So consistency is key. And also, before we close off, I just want to extend thanks to my mayor, CA, and all of my counselors for pushing me every single day, giving me new projects, and for also trusting me with their message to the residents.
Nice. Sabrina?
I think what I definitely want to say is congratulations for graduating first and foremost, but also to remember that in a time where we're advancing, we're becoming more modern, give yourself something else that can give you an edge. Volunteering was what did it for me. So definitely get yourself out there and network. You're never too young to start doing that. Simply by joining a youth group or volunteering with an organization and learn about it. I can remember when I graduated high school, the first place that I went, and I had no idea about it, I had never been to it, was the Museum of Belize. I walked at the gates of the Museum of Belize and I was like, hi, can I volunteer here today? I came off the bus and I went to the museum and I asked to volunteer. And I think that would definitely give you an extra push in the right direction because you meet people along the way. They always say a degree isn't enough anymore. A lot of people get opportunities by not even having degrees now. So make sure you do the extra work, volunteer with people. Please volunteer.
And Dominique?
Yes. My message is accommodation of two of those, these lovely young ladies who I get the opportunity to work with as well. The first is dare to be. Do that thing where you're not supposed to do. Legal things. Do the things where seem out of normal. Like not do what you're supposed to do. Not follow. If you're passionate about, I don't know, tea making, go make tea. If you're passionate about honey, go do that. And to end with that, you follow your passion. Because like Erin said, when things get hard, I'm sure Erin has some really tough days at the city council.
I do.
At the city council. So when it gets hard, what keeps Erin going, I'm sure, is the passion she has for her job. So if you don't have passion, and if you know to follow what you want to do, and you're not daring yourself, and you're not pushing your own boundaries, then you won't be stuck. And so find what you're passionate about and do it and do it and do it again and do it. Put your full force at it.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning. It was a really great conversation, and sharing or hearing all of your different perspectives and stories has really been a pleasure, and I'm sure our viewers have enjoyed it too. So, ladies, thanks once again, and please stay safe.
Thank you too.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
and with that, we are going to be taking a break, and when we come back, we are going to be speaking all about the 40th anniversary of the Social Security Board. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back after the break.